not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
Hey, YouTube.com and Twitch and Facebook and your mama. How's it going, guys? How are you? You guys having a pretty good end of the week? Are you tired from staying up late to watch the Bad Batch last night like I am? Because you couldn't sleep afterwards because you were so excited? No, I'm lying. I had a good time though. I don't really not gonna build it up that much, but yeah, what an episode. I'm going to be joined by Rob in just a little while. He forgot that it was the Bad Batch night, so he's watching it right now and he's getting caught up. So he should just be a few minutes and then we'll be able to really get into that kind of stuff. So really quickly while we're waiting for Rob to experience the episode, let's see what Mr. Dyson is saying. Great seeing Scorch, yellow gray trooper from the Republic Commando games, as one of the commandos. He only loved blowing stuff up in the game, so it makes sense they'd keep him working for the Empire. Yeah, like, I got to be honest. I remember when the Republic Commandos were revealed at one of the cons. Everybody went crazy, really, like, super into it. I was like, I enjoyed that game when it came out for as a video game, but I kind of find the design a little stupid, you know? Not saying you guys can't like it. Don't mean that. But for me personally, like if you're a soldier, I mean it's already kind of stupid when you're a soldier and you have like blinking lights on you. It's like, "Hey, here I am, guys. Come kill me." But like the glow in the dark visor thing, like it looks pretty cool at a rave. I'm sure he's really cool out there in the desert, at Chewbacca's Burning Man or whatever. But it's kind of like it just never really made that much sense to me. So when we get the first conscripted stormtroopers from Mantle in the episode, and then we see the Republic Commando with the neon blue light that looks like my webcam right now. I was like, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh, Mr. Filoni. Yeah. But I think I am in the minority on that opinion about those guys or that design. Like when they showed up in the Clone Wars in that one episode, they come down the ramp. I was like, yeah, I feel like the design looks like rather bulky, and so yeah, I'm just kind of a big downer about it. You know what I mean? But and Mr. Dyson, who's always on the positive side, said the early generation TK troopers looked very cool. Yeah, those were really were the Ralph McQuarrie concept art of the stormtroopers, the ones that you sometimes would see with like lance style lightsabers early on, and shields that we kind of saw in some of the early Force Awakens stormtrooper stuff at times, but didn't really become a big part of anything. Um, yeah, those. But seeing those stormtroopers, I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool, And I'm hoping my hope is as we get into the further, seasons of the show, I hope we get those like you remember that like hybrid clone stormtrooper costume? I think it was from the Force Unleashed. Like I'm not sure if that can't happen now or if it evolves into that and then into the stormtrooper from A New Hope that we're used to. Because I dug that design. Like that was one of the cooler ones. Man, and on a side note, I had a really, really weird like viewing of Star Wars materials last night. My son got tired early and wanted to go to sleep, take a nap so he could stay up and watch Bad Batch. And it's summer, so I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So he does it. But of course, he overslept a little bit and then he was pretty much up. So I ended up watching the new episode of The Bad Batch, and then he didn't know much about who Gregor was. So I ended up showing him the episode where you introduced a Gregor, and then we ended up moving on to the Star Wars Rebels, and we watched like the whole end, their introduction in Rebels. Then we watched the whole of Rex, Gregor, and Wolf, and then we went over and watched the last 3 episodes of Star Wars Rebels, and was looking at the whole, world in between worlds, because we keep talking about that on the show. And we keep talking about those hyperspace whales, and where are they? How did that end up? And then I was like, well, then we ended up watching The Mandalorian, the episode with Ahsoka, and kind of like went down that whole little rabbit hole and followed that arc all through Gregor in a strange way. I didn't expect that would kick off all of that, but yeah, it was nice though. It was refreshing to see Star Wars Rebels without any like weight or expectation. And when I started watching it again recently, I started from the beginning and I got kind of frustrated with it again. I loved it. I love it, but it's visually not very entertaining. So if you know the story, sometimes I'm like, I need more visual to enjoy this further. But I forgot how well the last seasons looked, and so thankfully that show looked so much better by the end. And I really missed Hondo with I can't remember the dude's name, but the little Ugnaught he hangs out with. And at the end of Rebels, when the Ugnaught gets shot, I was pretty pissed. But then Gregor goes down, and I was like, man, I forgot Gregor died here. And then the Ugnaught gets up, and I was like, all right, Gregor, too bad. Sucks to be you. But I'm all, if I had to pick one, I'm gonna pick the really rad little Ugnaught dude who is hilarious, because he and Hondo, they need to do more with them, because I think that duo written by the right person or the right director would just be so good. And it's my personal hope, if we see Hondo show up in Mandalorian season 3, for instance, that, or even Book of Boba, that he has the Ugnaught with him, especially after how good the Ugnaught looked in season 1 of The Mandalorian, you know? And Hondo, in my opinion, always works really well depending on who he has to work with. There are times when I've been like, oh, this is feeling like it falls flat. And it falls flat because you need a reaction, or he needs to be reacting. Like when he's reacting to the Ugnaught, like he thinks the Ugnaught's adorable. It's amusing to him, and that becomes amusing to the audience. But it's like the same thing with when, depending on how the characters are reacting to Hondo, is how well his lines, essentially work. But one last gripe though, because like I can't just love you, Rebels. You have to be my least favorite child. Was when Hondo is deciding to help Ezra, and he's just like, I would do anything for that boy. It's like, what? Like, it just doesn't feel like Hondo. I get the sentiment, but man, did that line need to be rewritten and told in a much more Hondo way, Hondo doesn't just go, I love you, son, and give you a hug. No, it would be roundabout. And even with the Ugnaught, when it gets up, he's like that. So that was the one thing where I felt like, God, not a big fan of those guys who call everything a Mary Sue and Mary Sue this, but that was kind of a Mary Sue moment. All the characters just love him. You know what I mean? It was like, not that they don't, but they have their edge. They have their baggage, and they're just not gonna, so anyways, those little things still kind of annoyed me about the show, but boy, was it much better. And not having the time travel fears, of like, oh, they're just going to abuse this, because so far they haven't, you know what I mean? Which has been nice. I see Rob's head is still down, so I'm assuming he's still watching it. But let's see what else is going on in the chat. Everybody's saying hi to each other, which I always like. I like it when you guys, I do like it when you guys fight, but when you guys fight like as friends, And I like it when you guys say hi to each other. It's nice. Swinging through comics. Is the Bad Batch armor based off the Commando armor? Bad Batch have big backpacks and such. Yeah, I could definitely see where they riffed on that, on some aspects of that design. And in a lot of ways, the Bad Batch, so a lot of the elements of the Bad Batch armor, I'm no like armor expert, 501st guy or anything, but it reminded me of that Force Unleashed Stormtrooper armor that I like, that they were, I think, I'm hoping these proto inscripted Stormtroopers armor, I hope it evolves into. Yeah. The only like weird thing I think of in some ways, like the Bad Batch look cool in with the black and red. So I totally get it. But there's times when I'm like, and as the guy who was just complaining about putting lights on stormtroopers, sometimes I wish their armor was like white. You know what I mean? Because it evokes too many other things for me at times. But not really a complaint though. Not a complaint. Hey Des, how's it going, man? Des says afternoon squad. And Dark Wintra says, I doubt Clone Force 99 had the high end gear like the Republic Commandos would have had. Yeah, I think that's probably true too. I mean, because I think they were experimental, but not necessarily like meant to be. I don't know if they knew what they were meant to be, which is probably why things have gone so bad for them. There was sort of like, in a weird way, like a virus in the whole clone program. Chandler says to Swinging Through Comics, yeah, although Hunter mentioned the Commando's armor had been upgraded. So, yeah. Darkwing just said only one of them, though, was sent to replace Gregor when he got caught trying to flee. Yeah. Yeah, that was what was I was like kind of confused by that. Like, obviously Gregor's like, I don't want any part of this jazz. I mean, it's like, I love how well they handled like these no-name characters in the end. It was probably an homage to Ewan McGregor. I mean, the guy was in an episode like as a dishwasher who forgot he was a clone because he lost his memory. And like we got that like years ago. And then now here we are and we have all this stuff from, I mean, essentially a nobody when you get down to it. But he's not to say he's a nobody, but you know what I mean? In the big picture, he's barely a footnote. But now, like, I was able to sit down last night and essentially watch, in a weird way, like a little baby Gregor saga. And I dig that. I dig that these characters have grown and have been used throughout, various shows. That's the good thing about Dave Filoni. I could see at some on in some ways Filoni being so close to the material that maybe maybe at times not the best choices can be made because of that. Like as a creative, he's seeing it as a fan too much, maybe. But in this kind of instance, for me, that's fantastic, and I love that they brought him back, and I love that it wasn't Wolf first because everybody always talks about how Dave Filoni likes wolves, and I could see him having a preference for that. But it also made me super hopeful that in season 2 we're going to see Wolf, and we're going to see how those three guys, Rex, Gregor, and Wolf, end up on that ATTE in the middle of the desert, just like chilling. Let's see how Rob is doing. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, can you hear me?
Are you all done? Yeah, you sound great.
Yeah.
Damn, that is a chocolate voice.
I know.
Man, Barry White.
The smooth sounds of Sketchcraft.
Yeah, the smooth jazz of Sketchcraft.
Yeah, this is the taupe of voices.
The taupe of voices. Yeah, that's how I feel after I watch a Star Wars cartoon sometimes too. So I get it, man. Now, did the episode work for you? I really quickly before you answer, the thing I like about Rob is he's one of us, but he's not one of us. You know what I mean? He's like a normal human, and like he hasn't seen every like animated show and everything like that. So he sees stuff and he's just like, that rocked. Oh, that fucking sucked. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that. So what how did you feel about it having only 1 minute to digest what you just saw?
That's probably the best episode out of the other two I've seen so far. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's a complete Star Wars adventure. It's got the ET opening.
It did, those flashlights.
Yeah, I mean that's straight
Yeah.
up at the ET opening. It's got the New Hope cues, right?
Mhm.
I mean, they go on the base. You got all the New Hope music going around. Dun, 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 dun,
The
dun.
yeah, what do you call it? Like Death Star March music, maybe? I don't know what you call it. That's right.
Pre-imperial,
Yeah.
march. It's the pre-imperial march. And then you got the striped Kaminoan, right? It's
Mhm.
got the stripe hawk, and so that's cool. And then they got what was it? They called him Kager. I was like, didn't we just make that Ian McKager?
No, Gregor. Gregor.
Gregor. Okay, I was
Gregor.
like, did it just say
Yeah.
Kager? Like,
No. No, he would be the coolest clone though if Kager showed up. Like people are like, "Hey, Kager wants to teach us something." That sounds cool. Everybody
he's
get
the
around.
John Belushi clones, right?
Yeah. Everybody gather around. We're gonna have a couple of brewskis and learn about imperialism today. All right.
Do we quit during the March of Kishak? No, we said drink the beer. Ah,
Yeah.
food fight. Yeah.
So in a weird, I was just talking about before you came on. I don't know if you could hear what I was saying or not. Or can you hear when you're in the quote green room of this app?
I can. I just took it out so I could hear the dialogue. Yeah.
So yeah, basically we are introduced to Gregor for the first time in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I think the episode may be called The Void. And he's basically this guy on this backwater nothing planet who has crashed. He has a big goatee and he's like kind of like a little hippie looking clone because he's just been living on this planet.
John Dykstra of clones.
Yeah, John Dykstra clones. And he is a dishwasher who is basically being told he's nothing and you're a dishwasher. So somebody just took advantage of this guy who lost his memory, basically.
And then Kung Fu Hustle or Shaolin Soccer? You just dishwasher.
No, that was the Bruce Lee biopic from the 90s. Yeah.
It's the Dragon the Bruce Lee story. Why did I think Kung Fu Hustle?
Yeah. So anyways, he ends up like getting his memory back and then he ends up getting blown up, I think. And then you're like, think he's dead. Then he ends up coming back. And then when Rebels comes out, when we finally meet Rex again for the first time, when Ahsoka takes the Rebels to Rex, they are living on an ATTE, an at-te, as we say, if you say at-te.
That's the French term.
Oh, it's fucking fancy as fuck. Yeah. It's sachet, at-te. It is on the catwalk. Anyways, it goes, they meet the three clones that are like old, looking like me pretty much, bald headed with big grizzly beards. And they're just like barbecuing and drinking beers with their beer bellies now.
Kager.
And they're all, and Gregor becomes Kager.
Gregor becomes Kager.
Yeah. But he ends up fighting with the rebels all the way up into the liberation of Lothal in Star Wars Rebels, like saves the planet that Ezra's from. And and then so basically this guy and then he dies in the at the very end, like as they are blowing up the big base, he dies. But this guy who has like a nothing character ends up going now through all of these stories. You could almost watch like this weird, and it's an interesting story, which is what's kind of cool about it, and I wasn't expecting to get that last night. I wasn't expecting to come to this realization. You know what I mean? That like they did such a, he just peppered through in this weird little way in these like these bold footnotes and throughout these different stories. But yeah. So, but what's cool about it is what we're seeing is War Mantle, and War Mantle is the project where they are going to make conscripted stormtroopers. So you had really cool stormtroopers. Let's get some sucky ones. How do we do that? Project War Mantle.
Interesting idea in that Luke has created this scenario where you have So you have a bunch of clones that technically don't have free will. They're loyal to the Republic, right? Or whatever
Mm-hmm.
their programming is. And then so to deal with that, the Emperor creates he gives he allows people to willingly choose their free will to join the Empire. And free will is seen as a bigger loyalty than non-free will. Like I'm trying to figure out where the moral is in there. Like how does that
Yeah, well, I think in a weird way, what it represents, at least for me, is that George Lucas was telling a story about how democracy is, in essence, usually just given over. It's usually just surrendered to someone. And the people who did that are the people who are doing this, who are joining the Stormtrooper program, who are being drafted and going with it. They're not rebelling. They're buying into the game. And I also can see it from a Grand Admiral Thrawn strategic point of view. Is that if you have a bunch
That's our
of
new thing.
clones, if you have clones oppressing you, you can generate clone hate. If you're oppressing yourself, if your brother's oppressing you and your sister's oppressing you, then it becomes a lot harder to put a finger on the boogeyman. And
The Empire is gonna start saying there's a caravan of Fendor coming to
yeah, and I
us.
would have been fine. I mean, I honestly would have been fine with either way that they wanted to tell the story. In a lot of ways, the whole thing is just very far fetched in reality. So I'm
I'm
already at
not
the suspension of disbelief about it
I'm
to a
not saying
certain.
I'm against it. I'm
Yeah,
just saying that I wish they would clarify this because it's an interesting theory that free will is actually that you can manipulate free will easier than all the tricks and technology they're using to create this fake clone art, this forced free will, forced will army, right? That
right.
will eventually rebel or break out because there's going to be anomalies, and like it's easier just to manipulate everyone into willingly giving over than to create. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there is something there. I just wish they would bottle it into a statement.
Well,
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
and here's the one thing I think to remember as I try to get comfortable in this really uncomfortable
And they'll be
office
like,
chair.
"Story's getting political. I
No,
don't want to talk about
I don't want to talk about it anymore. No, is that the one thing to remember is what was the deal with the clones, right? Like Sifo-Dyas was making ordered the clones to defend the Republic, and then he got axed. So what does that say about Palpatine's plan? And Palpatine, I think, kind of knew about him. That's kind of
It always
that's
it's so weird that that's an actual character now.
yeah.
Because when you watch the movie, it just sounds like, my name is Sketchcraft, so I
Oh,
was like, Scratchcraft. You know
if
what I mean? Scratchcraft.
they did a better Spielberg homage in the Sifo-Dyas episode, you end up seeing this sandstorm and there's the crash ship. And in Close Encounters when they find all the
Submarine.
airplanes, the airplanes and all that stuff, like they did that with the flashlights
Okay.
and everything like that and the thing. And then they that's when they find the evidence about him. And they end up like they actually put him in there as I think he was like a mirage, but like a dark side mirage kind of thing that messes with Yoda. I want to say, kind of blanking on that now, but yeah, it was good. But so the whole thing is what was Palpatine's, or maybe the chat knows the definitive answer. But what's
Shouldn't Palpatine's name been, instead of Sidious, should have been Darth Menace?
Darth Menace? Yeah.
Hence the Phantom Menace. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't that just because like if that's if I change that, then I don't have to think about Sidious and Sifo-Dyas being two different characters when it just sounds like I'm really bad at faking my name.
Yeah, yeah. Dennis the Phantom Menace. Basically,
Damn you! I've
uh,
never 20 years, 20 years. No one
sorry.
ever said that. You and Walter Matthau were
We're,
complaining in 1999.
he should have been Obi-Wan. No, but so anyways, was the Confederacy going to always use battle droids? Like, was that always the plan, or was that kind of like did that get turned around? Oh, they found me. I don't know how, but they found me.
Dun, 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 dun,
Libyans.
dun, dun, dun,
No,
dun, dun.
I have a feeling that they were going to use those stormtroopers for the Confederacy, but I'm not positive. I don't. That's just hearsay on my
Well,
part.
I know this doesn't count, but
Mhm.
prior to episode 1, if you played like the West End games, I was like the role playing game. I was like, why don't we just have droids, like like trooper droids? Yeah, I didn't have the
Mhm.
term battle droids, and then you look in the books, and it's like they're outlawed by the Empire.
Yeah.
And they didn't say much beyond that. And I was like, well, I guess that makes sense. If you could just manufacture your own army, of course they would shut down anybody being able to just create droids to fight the Empire, right? Otherwise, the rebellion would just have been making droids and, you'd have an instant army. So my guess is, like, if you make the bad guys, the quote unquote bad guys, the ones who run the droids, and you can outlaw them immediately, right? Like, it's a clever move. Like, if I don't
Yeah.
know if Lucas intended that, but it seems like it might have been. Like, it might have kind of like how when you read the first or the second outline of Return of the Jedi, you see Luke's plan actually to get Jabba out of the palace as part of the plan. Like maybe the
Mhm.
creating the battle droids on the opposite end means that you can then outlaw them, and that will prevent any future uprising from being able to just manufacture your own military.
Yeah, I mean, and you do end the Clone Wars with half the galaxy hating clones, the people who were in the Confederacy of Independent Star Systems, and then you have the other half who don't like droids anymore because of what they've done to their families over the course of that war, and so it does kind of make them really, really primed just to go, yeah, stormtroopers, us, let's do it. We're cool. Those guys suck. Those guys were fake. We're cool. Stormtroopers.
They got
I don't
little
know.
trooper. They got these buttons. They look like trooper helmets, but with toupees.
Yeah. Um, and like not to get too not much of a bummer, but like in with American slavery and our dark sordid past,
That's a bummer.
um, us you will sometimes hear like somebody say something like, "Oh, with a slave, they would just kill them. They didn't even care." But in reality, a slave cost around $17,000 was the value of a slave. And hate to bring that up as evidence in this, but it does kind of play into it. Um, do you think a battle droid costs more than $17,000? Because under the Empire, it may be cheaper to conscript somebody who you don't care if they actually live or die, because you're just taking them, than to spend the $17,000 to make a battle droid or more.
This
Um,
was the conversation that I
mhm,
was hoping would have around 2000 when that book Rogue Planet came out,
mhm,
where you have this, maybe this dialogue is going on between Tarkin, Rey Sinar, and even Palpatine. Where you're like, look, it's just it would, in my mind, it would have read like the Braveheart moment where he just got this king who's just like, the problem with Kylo's. I know none of that's true. I know. Okay, stop.
I don't know. I don't know. The only thing I know about Braveheart is when somebody wants to shit talk me bad on the internet, they really start acting like they're William Wallace for some reason. That's the only thing I know.
You know how what I most remember of Braveheart? That before episode 1, that was just that running clip that they use in every mock trailer where they would just put lightsabers
Yeah.
in it. And then Lucas sort of did that shot in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
The running shot, right? And I'm like, please tell me he didn't watch that.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
I'm
but
sure
this
he
was
did,
like
but
the conversation. I think that's when people say they don't want their politics in Star Wars, that's the kind of politics I do want to
mhm.
see, right? Where you're just like, yeah, here's how they're like, it's just easier to let these dudes kill themselves. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we have to train them, but I mean, it ain't the same as manufacturing the parts, building the things, and, mining all the stuff, moving them around, making deals.
Right.
So
Yeah. And just as a little side note, like my politics are pretty obvious from my Twitter the last 4 years, but I do think Star Wars stories maybe do the best about politics when it doesn't actually matter what side it is, like when it is about the actual lesson. Like it doesn't matter if because if you're super far left or you're super far right, you could still get to imperialism. You could still get to fascism. Fascism is like a circle, and you could get to it from the right and
libertarians
the
aren't
left.
immune to that.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
No,
the ones
totally.
like, not us.
Yeah,
Private prisons are cool.
yeah, and it's like so. I think Star Wars giving lessons to our culture, to the West, for that matter, that pertain to everybody, is when it is the most effective and probably the most socially like forward. You know what I mean? The most positive thing it can do.
Well,
But
Star Wars has a moral at some point in every story. It takes a
Mhm.
moral lesson, almost a parable. Like it's why it's called a mythology and not a pulp adventure.
right.
Right? The difference between a mythology and a pulp adventure is to be read, consumed, and thrown away, which is a lot of what I take away from like the Marvel movies. They're pulp adventures. You
Mhm.
get a moral here and there, but overall, these are the serialized adventures of these characters in another universe. But Star Wars is it's a mythology, right? Lucas has always said that. So like it's based in.
Just call him Locust.
Huh? Locust.
You call George Locust.
That's my alternate bug form. I don't talk about it too much.
He's all, I haven't transformed in years. Claudites are real, ladies and gentlemen. Claudites are real.
I demand changes to the movies. And then he goes back to human form.
Changes to myself.
Yeah. So no one knows that the Fly remake is actually based on George Lucas. So
yeah, Cronenberg, he loves Lucas.
And just because I know they'll take me out of context later, when I say people don't want politics in Star Wars, I'm not talking about what we're saying when the Voldemorties say it now on the internet. I'm talking about the argument in 99 that they were talking about taxations, like boring politics. Like politics in 1999 wasn't what we consider politics of today. I'm talking about the taxation of traders, whatever happened to the fight against the empire? I want this stuff, it's boring. So like that's the kind of politics. I'm not talking about obviously the tyrannical empire. No. But overall, dude. So question about the episode 2. You would think I'd memorize this. The stormtrooper helmets, is that a Johnson or a Macquarie design? I want to say it's a Joe Johnston Empire.
No, that is the original
Macquarie.
Yeah, I was talking about it a few minutes ago. If you look at there's some pieces of a stormtroopers with lightsabers that are like kind of like jousting looking lightsabers and shields.
Yeah, it's from the Star Killer fighting. It wasn't Vader; it was the other one.
It was like the Kane Star Killer with the headband and the George Lucas hair.
And then there was the stormtroopers that are just standing there on the bridge with the saber standing out. It's those ones.
Yeah. It's that era of the Macquarie one. And I also reiterated 3 times now that I hope they become that clone stormtrooper hybrid that we saw in The Force Unleashed. That was like one of the things that the design from that show that
technically also
know.
in Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
When you go on to the Jedi planet, whatever
Jeddah.
What is that? Jeddah. The Jedi was a Jeddah. Of course.
Yeah.
Samsonite. But they have the very samurai style, like cleaner design. I'm just the reason why I'm a little foggy on it is because I'm in the Return of the Jedi, of course, Jedi. Rinsler book where there's that ego fight between Macquarie and Joe Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was like Macquarie's like, I just draw everything, and Johnson's like, I'm drawing the more Ewoks. You know what I mean? You want some teddy bears? You let that guy do it.
Yeah, there's this story in that book where Ralph McQuarrie pretty much has his Drew Struzan moment where he's just like, fuck all this. And he's talking about how he had this little cabinet and he wanted to work on the cabinet. And then he started to realize he really wanted to work on that cabinet and not draw the Ewoks or something like that. And then that's when he walks. That's when he's like, okay, I quit.
Yeah, I'm going to Ewok my ass out this production. Look, man, people can love the Ewoks, but I'm going to tell you right now, I think it was a bad idea overall. Like,
I have to disagree because I'm still here. I was an Ewok kid.
I hear you.
Kid right here.
I hear you. God love you, but my uncles, they grew up with Gilligan's Island and will die by Gilligan's Island, but it's not a good show.
No, it's not. I do love watching it though. It is
So overall, though, man, like I said, just from a normie, is that a term? A nerdbo, is that it? Instead of a himbo, it's a nerdbo. Point of view. Overall, Matt Day is a good episode. Oh, my last question: are those stuns? Are they just stunning everybody? The Bad Batch, like
that's a huge gripe of mine. It's
fucking
like,
dumb, dude.
Come on, man. Yeah, that was
really dumb.
Yeah, that was like, and you know, I talked about that little. I had a little journey last night of watching a bunch of random Star Wars shows that connected in this weird way. And I went from this to watching the end of Star Wars Rebels where they're like shooting stormtroopers. And it was like, why are you guys doing this? Like, I get it. Guns are a problem, but this isn't a part of it. I'm sorry. I'm not a big
galactic
gun guy.
Genocide.
Yeah, I don't like guns. I'm not a big gun guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that most guns need to be around. I don't think that they are usually a good idea.
But the freaking ships have the guns. Like, I used to get in this argument with licensing, right? This goes back to even people blame Disney, but Lucasfilm had this problem where they were like, Walmart doesn't want the clone guns on the shirt. Okay, right. So don't put any weapons on the shirt. I'm like, the ships have weapons on them.
Yeah.
But they're not putting them in their hands. I'm like, they control the ship. They shoot the bad guys with the ship. Like, X-Wings have literally 4 guns on the X-Wings. I'm like, and I used to get in this argument with Walmart. I'm like, and here's the confusing thing about it. Right. And by the way, Walmart wasn't saying liberal moms are compliant. They used to say church moms. I'm just letting you know. Right. It was church. That's Walmart's data, not mine. But I'm like, you sell this next to Call of Duty. I don't understand like your framing on this, you know, like, so, I'm like, it's a fantasy. It's not, I just feel like we're in that world where, remember when you were a kid, did you ever hear how like in the UK, the Ninja Turtles couldn't be ninjas?
Yeah.
You know, like, and then you watch the movie sequel and they can't use any of their weapons and shit. And you're just like, what the fuck am I watching? You know, yo-yos and shit, you know, like, no. It's like when YouTube goes, you can't curse. And I'm like, except when Bill Burr, fuck that guy would probably reach the internet and kill me for doing that every time. But, you know,
I mean, I get it. I make the mistake too, but I could understand.
So Freudian. I just slips. But I mean, like, you know, it's just, where does the line start and stop? And I just think like, it's a fantasy adventure. And if you buy Star Wars, I get maybe the t-shirt, but in the cart, so the bad guys can shoot, but we stun. Then they're not the bad batch. They're the stunning batch. They're like
the stunning troopers of the Galactic Empire.
Yeah, it was. I don't know, man. Light them on fire. That's what these guys should be doing.
I'm curious if there was some sort of like when they're clones, is it okay to shoot them? But when they're people now, it's not. Like, is that? I'm wondering what their internal logic is. I'll tell you either way.
Opposite.
Either way, it's fucking stupid. That's
stupid.
It's like the problem. The problem isn't a kid seeing somebody get shot in a Star Wars cartoon. It's the kid having a real fucking gun. That is the issue.
And posing with it, you know, in front of their Bible and flag. Like,
if you want to,
that's a real problem.
If you want to fix something, don't fix the stories. The stories weren't broken. The culture is. It's a completely different thing to me. But it really goes. It really kind of like reads. It started to read a little bit silly. I'm like, these people are imperialist slavers who are going to build a fucking Death Star and murder billions of people, but we stun them because, you know.
Imagine, hold on. Let's say, I'm not going to blame Disney. Let's just say Lucasfilm decides we're going to do an Indiana Jones CGI cartoon, but at the end of his whip, he has a tickle feather. And cats are like,
yeah. No, like I think did I tell you, like, I was in the pool with my kids and my son's like, what's my superhero name? And I was like, it's Tickle Fist. And he's like so pissed about it. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, don't give me Tickle Fist. And that's what it's like. It's like, you want,
We got to make that comic book. It'll be a 22-page one shot. You know what I mean? Tickle fist.
Yeah. No, it's completely like, it completely like pulls the punch on things, and
he pulls no
in a dumb
punches.
way.
Tickle fist.
No, and like like in the original Star Wars, when somebody got lasered, they had like drawn in like smoldering burn marks as they were shot. The special edition, they actually took those out, and I was like, okay, a lot of people got mad about it, or some people got mad about it. I was like, okay, I was okay with that. It was, maybe that was a little bit too far, like a little bit, too gratuitous if you overlooked it. Honestly, nobody even noticed, so it was sort of stupid to remove it. But it is what it is. And but I'm like, man, this feels like a slippery slope towards really, really dumb Star Wars cartoons. I really like, I'm already kind of like having, the one thing that has annoyed me is the Pollyannish attitude of the heroes that are younger. Like Luke Skywalker kind of has it, but he's pretty cool. And by the end of the first movie, 2 hours into knowing him or so, he is completely cool. And these shows keep that Pollyannish attitude going continually.
Well, they also take the sitcom route. So like, and the difference between serialized, like continuous story television, say something like Deep Space Nine, or Quantum Leap might be the earliest I sort of remember seeing. Maybe Hill Street Blues did this, right? But I wasn't watching that. The difference between that and a sitcom like Cheers is that in a serialized story, the characters learn from episode to episode. They have their stereotype, but they learn and they remember that time that thing happened. Like Buffy did that. They'd be like, hey, I remember that time. I'm like, yeah, I know it doesn't make sense. It's contradictory, but I did learn it. But in a sitcom, no matter what they learn, they can learn a lesson at the end of the episode. But by the next episode, everyone's back to where it's the Too Many Chefs, right?
Too Many
Did
cooks.
you ever see that? Too Many Cooks, right?
Too many cooks. Oh, that's
best.
the best. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You know what? You're my new best friend. So
yeah, Too Many Cooks is so solid. And they did a sequel too, Lords of the Synth, which I really like a lot too. Not as good.
I missed that one.
But Lords of the Synth is good. I think it's a little too musicy, I think, for everyone. Like if you're really into synthesizers and shit like that, it's hilarious. It's the best. But but Too Many Cooks. Too Many Cooks in the kitchen.
So that's what Omega to me is doing. It's like you just had an episode where this didn't work out, this Pollyannish behavior, and it's like you learn nothing. You're right back. We have to help no matter what, and who cares if we eat? Like, kid,
we're good.
We're gonna eat you before we eat each other. You're the new one.
And no, that's where I was conflicted about the end of the episode when she's crying about leaving what's his name behind. It's like, on one hand, yes, that is kind of like her father. So I get it. Like that's the one who she's the closest to. So it made sense. On the other hand, I felt like it would have been a moment to show growth in her as a trooper who realizes in war you have to make hard calls, and it's not emotion, it's using your head, and that if he's going to live to fight another day, that they need to get out of there or they can't ever save him. And so that's a little bit where I'm like, oh, like it was kind of starting to almost annoy me, but I don't know if I'm there yet. I think depending on how the next episodes go are going to really influence how I feel about that moment. If she does buck up after this, then I'm like, okay, there you go. Cool. But if it continues, then it's sort of like, If
I had to put $5 down on it, I'd say just gonna go down the route of LA Animation. And I say LA Animation, people think that's like, they call that Cal Arts, or like that means it looks like Gumball Adventures. No, this is an old term that my animation instructor was using, and he went to Cal Arts in the 70s and worked on He-Man and the Disney reboot, in the late 80s. And he would just say, there's this mentality that it constantly shifts. Every 10 years you get a new one, but it's just consistent because all the people in making this stuff in LA have like a group think mentality. And you can see it in video games where if you ever make a game, every producer will tell you, got to have a tutorial. They don't know how to do it if you don't have a tutorial. And then development teams spend way too much time like over explaining how to do shit in the game, but you're like, I just want to play the game. And they go, well, if you don't, you wouldn't know how to do it. And then you go, yeah, but then a game like Minecraft explains nothing. Like not one thing other than there's an A and a B on a screen sometimes. And even then, not always. So like it doesn't work that way. And I just think this is one of those things where a bunch of writers are like, well, you have to have the plucky hero who does the thing and something or other. And you have to, and
Yeah.
it's just like, no, what does this story have? What is the story telling you it needs? Like this story is telling me that I need this kid to learn that if you're gonna freaking survive in this changing world, and right now it's changing to the point where these clones are all gonna get waxed. You're gonna have to like make real decisions, And yes,
Yeah.
doing the right thing is good, but before you can do the right thing, you have to survive.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't
No,
do the right thing if you're dead.
no, I'm with you. I feel like if they want to tell those kind of stories where the kids having that other thing, don't set it during the quote dark times.
Well,
Set
they
it
did
during.
that with that show that went nowhere. What was it, Resistance?
Mhm.
One I was looking forward to. I was like, this looks great. I
Yeah.
like the cell shade animation. The most generic LA style story, classic, just by the Save the Cat book, which by the way, Save the Cat and these sort of things weren't designed. If you don't know what that is, it's a book that was written by a guy who sort of distilled all of the story structure classes that like Vogel and a bunch of these guys, Truby and these people were doing to sort of explain the structure of screenplays in Hollywood. And it's become like a sort of like now like a litany of trope weird acronyms like this is the rise in the moment. This is the milkshake by the edge of death. Like I don't know how to memorize all this shit. It's there to like it's there to spotlight academically after something made, but you can't be shoving that into something before it's made because it just creates this easy to read puzzle of predictable storylines that just consistently do the same thing over and over again, which is why consumers feel like I feel like I've seen the story a million times before because they're not telling you the story that the story wants to tell you. At some
Yeah.
point, when you set these characters into rooms, they will make decisions for themselves. It's pretty like it's really weird how it happens when you start writing. You're like, oh wow, I did not think that because the character was doing this. Instead of like we got to have him come here to fill in the check mark and and that's what I think we're seeing here, and it's a shame because as a guy who literally came in 2 episodes ago knows nothing about this universe, I'm like, I like these dudes even if they're a little cartoony. I just wish the writers would let the characters do what the characters would do in this situation and not what they think they need to do to not, to check off a PG rating. It's streaming. There's no rating,
Yeah. That was the other thing is I was like, are they afraid of a standards kind of code coming down on them someday? But even Star Wars Rebels was Y7, much to its detriment, and it still had stormtroopers being shot. I kind of wonder like about certain like the Lucasfilm animation kind of wing, like who the imagined audience is, because I think I know. I won't say it because it would be not right, but or fair. But I think I know, and I think that if they really reimagined the imagined audience that they have, they would probably end up making much better shows that connect with their actual general audience.
They think kids are watching this.
They think, I'll be honest, they think giant man babies like myself, and
like a locust.
And no, and yeah, like a locust. They really think adults who are easily infantilized are watching this, and that is oftentimes their imagined audience, I believe. And I've had conversations with people there before, and have had them name drop people to me. And these are people who, if I'm going to be real about it, these are people who, if they were on a TV show, if it was a reality TV show about, and they were acting like they do about their fandom, they would be instantly clipped to hell on YouTube and become fucking walking memes in 1 second because they are as cartoony as the show.
That's our spoof documentary, The Walking Memes,
The Walking Memes
instead of dead.
Yeah. But that could just be me seeing something that isn't there, and I'm a crazy person. That's possible too.
Again, though, this is something where like you have to the audience should be, we're in the room, we're fans. What would happen? Where will we go with this? We have a set of some guidelines we have to hit, because obviously we want to hit an all ages market. So we're not going to have them curse and snorting up spice and rocket fuel and whatever. But like, for them to go, well, I think our audience is a bunch of whiny dudes, so they would, and it's like, you don't, because what you're now doing is you're now like picking it's, how do I say this? There was an interview I read once, watched on Film Courage. I'm iffy on the site. They do some good, but they had an interview with a Danish or European filmmaker who said once that he learned something in university or uni that do not individually engage with one person in discourse about your film. When people give you feedback, say thank you and literally take it all in. You can have an overall discourse like in a conference or in a book or in an interview. But when you engage with one person, you're only speaking to that one person, and like no one else is hearing this. So if you go onto Twitter and engage with that one person, people might retweet it, but you're not having the conversation you want to have. So like if they're having this so-called like this theoretical conversation through their theoretical audience, they're missing out on all the other fans like myself who would come to something when I'm like, because when you hear the buzz, I hear this thing's pretty amazing, I'll go turn it on. That's how you bring people back in, or new people. It's not, trying to like argue with Jedi Show 7768 on YouTube, twitch.dumbcom. You know what I mean? Like, and I just feel, or when they think, I personally feel their audience, man, for this is us. Like, and I don't mean us in terms of like our fandom. I mean, probably an older audience that will bring their kids to the show. Yeah. If I had to put money, man, I think kids are just playing Fortnite, not watching cartoons. Yeah. Like they're watching anime because anime is doing some wicked shit. And they're not using stun guns.
Well, the thing that and once again, we're talking about who we think the imagined audience is. So I'm just going to say the conversation may not be fair, but I do think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but
fair.
But what I will say is, look at what Favreau and Filoni did with The Mandalorian. I think it's very obvious that their imagined audience is themselves at about 14 years old to 16 years old. And that's where they fucking rocked it. And so their imagined audience needs to be them, and it needs to be them. That's, I think, the more important thing. And then hope that that person, on Twitter squills like a fucking weirdo. I mean, that's all you can really do.
And if they have younger writers on staff who grew up with the Clone Wars, what did you want to see when you were that kid watching the Clone Wars? Forget how I grew up now and I want them to grow up with me. No, what did you want to see when you were 12? Where did you imagine these things would go? And if I were to present this premise to you, the Bad Batch, when you were, 10 or 11 or 12 watching the Clone Wars for the first time, or 8 or 9, like, what would you think about this? Where would you? And that's the kind of whiteboarding that the imagination of the group that grew up with it, versus saying, well, since I'm older, they should all be drinking and having kegers and frat parties now.
Great.
So
name is Kager now.
that one made it through.
Yeah. No, and I mean, and just to be clear, like, I did like the episode, by the way.
Yeah, I told you I liked. This is like, if I had to show one, this episode wouldn't make any sense to my wife. But if I had to show it to a friend who knew Star Wars, this would be, out of what I've seen so far. But just watch this one, just jump right in, because there's so many things that bridge the old trilogy with the prequel trilogy, and whatever this show's doing on its own, that you can get it. You can get all of it in one shot.
Yeah, I as a I don't know what you would call us, as a unified saga fan, as somebody who likes all of it. The saga.
I said soccer. I was like,
soccer.
Back to that?
As a soccer fan, you call it football. No, as a
foot
soccer
wars in Europe.
yeah, as a Guy who likes it all. I love that we are seeing the gradient blend of the palette of the prequel era into the sequel trilogy, into the original trilogy kind of stuff, and seeing how that stuff goes, because it was like I could always do it in my mind, but there's a lot of people who couldn't do it, who just like saw it as two different things. I don't understand artisan Art Nouveau looking stuff versus the age of imperialism, mass produced, everything's a Chevy or a Nova or whatever. Like I get it. But at the same time, it's nice that they're kind of just laying that out there in the way that they are, that we're getting the big answers to things that we really, some ways wanted back during Rebels, like this Stormtrooper conscription program. Like in Rebels, we just got like, hey, what are you guys? Oh, we're clones. They retired us, basically. They replaced us with idiots.
Retired.
Yeah. And yeah, and then there was always this other sub story that others became teachers, that clones became teachers. And so I'm kind of wondering if it's going to turn out that the clone commandos were never like that good of dudes, and they all became the teachers of the stormtroopers as time went on or something, because that's what we see kind of going on in this episode. But it also kind of dashed my hopes for that big clone rebellion, because it looks like Tan Wei, or whatever his name was, whatever the prime minister dude, he's toast. Dude from Attack of the Clones is dead. Yeah, he is dead. Yeah. He got killed. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. They were like, "Oh, a scientist, we need you." Operation Paperclip, come on. And and
it was actually, like, I've not been a fan of that Imperial bad guy so far. He's been a little like, the twirly mustache kind of dude. Mm-hmm. But that was a good switch, right? Like you expect it to go one way, and then it's like, no, it's gonna go the other, and it all that actually
was good.
That did what the character would do.
Yeah. Yeah. That was actually not him being a harebrained idiot. By the way, if this was a movie in the 80s, I would have cast the boyfriend from Big, the one who doesn't like Tom Hanks, who's pissed when Tom Hanks comes into the firm. I would have cast that guy as the Imperial.
I used to get him confused with the guy from Breakfast Club and Die Hard. It's not him, but I was like, I always felt those two guys, like, because Die Hard has the two great 80s.
Wait, or is it, after what you told me about Sam?
Oh yeah, so Strokes, I have to make a retraction. It's buried. So
yeah, you do.
As I said, speaking of little kids who jump into series that get fucking annoying for no reason, the kid from Different Strokes, the little Southern boy, is in fact the kid from Salute Your Shorts and Terminator 2. Danny something. Yeah.
It wasn't a dream. Thank you, Mandela Effect, for fixing that for me and putting it back to how it was.
In my defense, I'm just a construct of your imagination anyways. So deep inside, you did not believe that to be true. So
true.
I'm only here because you exist. So.
you represent my Different Strokes anxiety, I guess.
When your kids start doing that to you, that's when I've lost them. They've grown up. This is way too complicated.
Oh, and Dez says Afternoon Squad. Thank you for being a channel member, Dez. And you could support the channel by becoming a channel member or a Patreon supporter, where you get the audio of the show. Dark Winters. Do I say it Dark Winter, or is it Dark Winter? And it's just like Dark one of those.
That's the European version.
Oh no, I think you whisper it. Dark Winter. Oh, yeah. I doubt Clone Force 99 had the high-end gear. Oh yeah, I already read that. See, I always do this, man. What's it gonna be? All right, Swinging Through Comics says, so you're saying it is confirmed that Thrawn will be Captain Ahab? Yeah, that's right. Hey Ben, how's it going, dude? I got your message.
HB.
I got Ben's message right before I started. Ben was like, I love the episode. And Ben says, I love seeing Scorch from the Republic Commando. That was amazing.
So, I felt this was the thing that Ben should have been on for this one and not the rando day.
Right?
Ben's so knowledgeable. I'm like, Ben, you got to come on when these episodes drop, because you got all that knowledge that we're not going to shit over it.
Yeah, I know. like I said, I forgot to remind you. It snuck up on me, but Ahsoka equals Moby Dick in space confirmed. So okay,
Look, Moby Dick in space was
Moby
made
Dick in
in is
space.
an anime actually. Like there's an anime movie from the 70s called Moby Dick in Space.
Moby Dick in
I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually exists.
All right. This kid is being really annoying, but if you're gonna be on the show, you got to be on the show because you're being an annoying kid who's trying to. Okay. So did you watch Bad Batch last night? Did you like it? Yeah, you gotta say it in the mic. You gotta say people need to hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did.
What was the best part? Did you have a best part? Favorite part? No. Did you like seeing Gregor back? Did you recognize Gregor when you saw him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No, you forgot who he was.
No.
Okay, don't touch that. Yeah. So, anyways, all right. I'm just gonna have this little weirdo on my lap then. So yeah, but James goes on to say, pretty good episode, way better than last week's. But are they done with the whole Captain Hauser thing? Try not to kick that, son. When are we going to learn what happened to him? Yeah, I'm going to guess that they're not done with him. And on Star Wars Santa's show, he showed me, I believe it was there, an action figure that he has coming with a different name. It had a different name listing, but the action figure's coming. And
Santa's always making something.
Santa's always making something. So I think that they're going to have more than that episode. I also think that there's going to be a season 2.
Hold on, man. I gotta tell you right now. If you had told me in 1995 or 6 or 7 that that there'd be a Star Wars Santa on the internet that has the inside info on Star Wars toys, I would have freaking lost my mind. Like,
yeah,
it
it's
is
great.
the coolest thing that actually exists right now. You know, like it's so awesome.
Yep. You feeling okay? The Bad Batch are the Dirty Dozen with clones, says Richie. That's what George Lucas was going for back during Clone Wars. Yeah, you can't touch that, dude. You're gonna make like a loud noise on their
But
thing.
the Dirty Dozen didn't use stun guns.
All right. So Chandler says that is a great way to look at it. Episodic animation allows for an individual character saga. Yeah, that was in certain ways the great thing about the Clone Wars being an anthology series is it allowed for Gregor to have that episode. And that is the one downside. To be careful with that, okay? Because if you pull that out, it'll all go off. It'll take the whole show down. You'll be like, I'm taking the whole thing down.
This side will still be working.
That side will. But basically, what was I saying? Sorry, I'm getting
Gregor's
this
being able to run through an anthology.
Yeah, is that it? Since we don't have this anthology anymore, we are going to lose a lot of the potential for that in the future. So,
this is a negative to Disney, by the way. And this is a business model of theirs that I don't agree with. And they basically won't let anything go past 3 seasons. And I imagine it's right before something hits 100th episode.
Me too.
Yeah.
So no matter what they're gonna do, they're gonna cancel something. You know, probably after like 1 or 2 seasons these days. Just so I remember I was working with a screenwriter who was pitching cartoons, and this was 10 years ago, but it's holding true. It's that they only want to sell. We just want to sell #1 issues, Rob. You know, we just want to sell #1. So we're going to do a season, and then we're going to do a whole new version of the next thing. And then we're going to do a whole new version of the next thing. You know, because we just want to sell a new set of toys. So the minute the toy sales goes down, like this he said it happened to Spectacular Spider-Man.
Okay.
That the minute the toy sales were dipping, we cancel the show, do a new one. So we can do a whole new box toy line Walmart thing, you know, with the queue, and it looks different.
Yeah.
And that's like, even if the ratings are up, even if the engagement's there, they look at the merch sales. And I mean, that isn't happening here because I don't think Bad Batch toys, especially with the market, isn't working. But I don't see Disney committing to what Lucasfilm committed to with the Clone Wars cartoon, with the length of that series, you know?
Yeah. I
7
could.
seasons.
Yeah, I could definitely see how you could look at these shows like the kids are going to age out of it, So we need something new always, because if you go over 3 years, and it used to be you wanted to hit 100 episodes to reach syndication. That's why Clone Wars got so many episodes. That was why he like toughed it out for it, and they even put out episodes that they didn't love because they wanted to hit that magic number to get that magic money forever. But
the syndication means what? Royalties.
Yeah, no, that's why
Right.
why Lucasfilm wanted that originally. But the world changed, streaming happened, and it didn't matter anymore. So, and by the way, They Live, All Hands on Deck mentions They Live, which is the best, one of the raddest movies ever.
I never tell you, I found out like
Mm-hmm.
10 years into our relationship, my wife had never seen They Live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you haven't seen it? She's like, no, I don't want you to, don't. So I watched, I rarely I make someone watch something.
Yeah.
But I knew, and I remember, I had no idea where that story was going. I just turned it on Cinemax one night. I had no idea what I was watching when I was a kid. So I was like, I just want to see if she can figure it out. That's what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's watching it, and like, man, 20 minutes in, she's like, is this like a gay love story between she's fine with it, but she's like, is this like a 80s like love story between these two? I'm like, just watch the show, because you have no idea. And when it turns, she's like, what the, and when he puts the glasses on, she's like, what the hell? She thought it was a love story between these two guys, and then she realized it's this alien thing.
Mm-hmm.
And just blew her mind, even like in 2011, 2012. Like, so
Yeah.
that hook, that turn that Carpenter and them did, man, still holds up.
Yeah. As a kid, the VHS tape had one eye glass lens, and it had like the alien eye kind of thing, and
Yep.
it was lenticular, and I was like, oh, that is so cool. Like it was the best. But yeah, they should definitely they definitely need to get some They Live in Star Wars, that's for sure. Swinging Through Comics says, are the TK conscripts or are they true believers? As a religious person, I can say there's a lot someone will do when they believe in something hard. Yeah, that's like a pretty good question. I mean,
Serenity reference.
my guess is that they are, the first ones are probably like the true believers, so to speak. The ones with the fervor is what I'm guessing. But you know what?
They got the fever for the flavor.
No, they in the previous episodes though, when they were like being told to kill Saw Gerrera's people, they were a little like, what's this about? Like they weren't totally like all about it gung ho. So, but I do feel like they were probably people who joined willingly though.
Dude, even Luke Skywalker wanted to join the Imperial Academy.
Yeah, he wanted to go to get the knowledge, but then we learn like what Biggs was doing. Like Biggs goes to the Imperial Academy, gets all the training, and then jumps ship to the rebellion right then. And that's what it sounds like Luke wanted to do as well. But
I had this discussion with someone I was working with a couple years ago who was like, you were in the military? I'm like, yeah, not a lot of people join the military because they're like, can't wait to go murder folks.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't have a way out of their system.
Yeah.
I didn't have a way out of, in 1998, I didn't know how to get out of this system I was stuck in backwater San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
and like, it's a way to get out of it. And then,
Yeah.
And sometimes, people find a good version of themselves and a bad version of themselves, but not everyone's joining up because they're like, try to make it, like this, you go Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Sidious man myself. Like,
Yeah.
So they're calling them TKs. I guess the TK-421, is that the whole Stormtroopers or TKs?
Yeah, Stormtroopers are TKs. And I will say really quickly, I didn't know if they should have called them TKs yet, being like the Protos. I almost thought there should have been a different call sign before we got to the Stormtroopers. But
still like 20 years, 15 years or so, right?
There's like 20 years. No, this is like the first week still. This is like the second week of the Empire. So yeah,
we got to get to A, B, C, D, E, F, T, K.
Right.
Maybe it goes backwards. Z, A.
Yeah.
XB.
I mean, there could have just been like, just something a little bit different, but whatever. Yeah. No, and that is the story I wanted to tell was Adam Driver. They wanted to cancel him, but he was just too fucking hot. Because he talked about
What?
how 9/11 happened, and that's why he became a Marine. He wanted to go fuck
Oh,
up the people who fucked us up. And they were like, real, like, yeah, like I remember seeing the cancel crowd really not know what to do with the dampness in their jeans and this other idea. These two things did not compute. They just eventually looked the other way. We're like, it's cool.
yeah. I mean,
I think it's fine though.
I never had to fight. I got out literally a couple months before 9/11. Like,
Thank God.
so like I literally in the last generation of people serving in the military, we didn't fight. We were,
Yeah.
it was crazy. But I supported that initially because I was brainwashed by the military. And I gotta tell you, like, I quickly reverse course about 6 months into it when Rumsfeld comes out and goes, we're gonna be here probably 20 years. Rumsfeld or Cheney. We'll be here for like 20 years. I'm like, 20 years? Like, whatever happened to 5 weeks? Like, that's when I was like, oh no. And that was the one thing when I went to go see Revenge of the Sith, I'm like, yeah, I thunderously applaud for this bullshit too. Matter of fact, it's nothing new because people on the internet don't freaking know their history.
Yeah.
Is every year there's this thing called basketball, and they have this thing called March Madness, right? And that terminology, March Madness, comes from
Star Wars used to have one, but we couldn't have it because we can't have nice things in this community.
well, it turns out, my friend, it comes from World War One. It was called the August Madness, and it was when everyone agreed to go to war, and they were parading and having a good time about it. He celebrated. That's right, we're all gonna go to war, be back by Christmas. Everyone, it was called the August Madness because they were cheering for their own deaths.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why are we still using this terminology as if it's a good thing?
In Star Wars, it was called This Is Madness.
Yeah, this is madness, but that's the August Madness. So I'm like, Lucas is smart. He does know how to like weave in things and not make it maybe all the time so right in your face. But I don't know, man. Like, I just like people make mistakes, and it's this idea that like whatever how do I say this? Like the thing that you think you like, if the thing that you're dying on a hill for now, you may regret to ever associate with 10, 15 years from now.
Well, I think like the lesson in that, and even the Star Wars takeaway lesson is like when like 9/11 happens, you have a right to be angry that people murdered people in your country, and that and the people who did that were truly awful and need to be destroyed. And that is fine. That is just the world that we live in. But it was the follow up, and it was like I was even at first I was like, yeah, let's get Al Qaeda. Fuck those guys. And then all of a sudden I'm like, but wait, you guys want to go to Iraq? Was why? What? Like, and then I must like no. Now this is a big excuse. And that is, I think, the big lesson that you take.
You want to arrest a bunch of people that have nothing. You want drone program. Like, it's just, it unleashed all this stuff. And I just, like, that's something that I do hope. My hope is that because these kids are seeing these complex conversations now, and they're like having simplistic reactions to them, that as they get older, they'll see that the simplistic reaction is not the way, that you have to have more nuanced, like informed conversations about things, and not just be like, you can't support the bad things once, that means you're bad forever. It's like, all right, dude, you're telling me you never had a bad thought? You never telling me I could take that kid's snack pack and no one would notice in grade school? Like, you never had that thought? Like, right. So yeah, I mean, when Driver came out, and it's like the other day when, speaking of Adam Driver, he's like doing the whole swimming ad, right? The blueberry thing.
Swimming like, in the blood of Iraqis.
Sorry. They're just gonna cut these all out, and use them against you, like in some, yeah, whatever. I'll be there for that day. That'll be fun, And so they're looking at him like, he's in shape. I'm like, the dude was a freaking Marine. He knows how to swim. You know what I mean? He knows how to do PT. He knows how to do push-ups. Never lost it, guys. Like, for reals. Like, it's great, but like at the same time, it's just like they're just amazed like when an actor like has some, I guess it must be in some kind of bro shape. Like the dude knows how to do PT. Like I don't understand what this is so what because like I just think that there's this theory in their people's minds that they think every soldier looks like Rambo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they really do. They think
Well, that one guy in Bad Batch does. So
that's the problem. That's the problem. And I
Yeah.
always think like, you know, there's Predator and then Predators, right?
Mhm.
Predators, not as good as the first movie, but Adrian Brody looks like an actual soldier.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger looks like the 80s idealization of what a soldier is.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Right.
you know, yeah.
Yeah.
I was a
Different
soldier,
world.
if you can believe that stupid shit. And like they didn't like it. You know, in the army, they were like, they walk into my room and I had the Slave Leia and the Jar Jar Binks on the wall. I had both. I had the pod racers. I was like, I had Shigeru Miyamoto. Picture of a 40-year-old Japanese dude, Carrie Fisher, and a Gungan on my wall. And they were just like, what is wrong with this guy?
You prequel lover.
I was.
Yeah.
I was until Attack of the Clones.
Johannes says, what new footage or reveals do you think will come from D23 this year?
There's a D20.
Is there one this year?
In 2023, it's D2023 as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, if there is one this year, I can't remember if there's supposed to be. I usually get a bunch of bullshit emails from them and then they don't give me the pass anymore. But
it's got to be their shareholder meetings, the closest thing to a D23 we're getting.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, like, I don't know, like with the news today, I don't care if they demonetize the video, because people should know, but like the Delta variant is now supposedly 200% more contagious than the original COVID variant. That there was, I think it was in Scotland. Don't quote me on that. It was like a music festival somewhere. I think it was Scotland, but I'm not sure now. And basically, like 20,000 people went into this music festival. 1,000 people left with COVID. And so with that right there, and the people didn't sit next to each other. They weren't. So if they do a D23, I fucking hope it is digital. You know what I mean? Because no one needs to die, get erectile dysfunction. That's a thing, guys. You can lose your boner forever.
It's the only way you can appeal to these mongrels.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's true. You will lose your heart on, and you will become around 7 IQ points lower after you get it. If
they're fine with that.
Yeah, that's cool. They're all that's fine. I might like this Bad Batch cartoons more. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Oh,
I like it.
Well, I don't know whether we like the show or don't like it. What are they saying? Just be one dimensional. You know, very cool.
Rob says you are Sam Harris's voice doppelganger.
Sam Harris. Oh, I'm not a Sam Harris fan. So
Swinging through comics, decriminalize it, Rob. Hashtag decriminalize it. Justin said, hey, Justin, how's it going, dude? Thanks for being a channel member, by the way. I'm, in my own opinion, Star Wars politics works best when exposing how people on separate sides of a political system are both getting screwed over by the benefactors of chaos, which is mainly what it has been.
Benefactors of Chaos would have been a great 90s album.
That's our fucking metal band with Justin on drums.
Right? Benefactors of Chaos. Like, that's the one.
We are the benefactors of chaos. Welcome to a galaxy far, far away.
Now, do you do the puppet Guar thing, or do you keep it like low 1 amp, you know, like early Nirvana-ish?
No, we go like that hillbilly metal thing. Like I have like a fucking like wife beater with like my fucking underbelly hanging out, some stains on it, like Dexter Jetster almost, you know. And I'm just like, yeah, here we are. This
is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
What are we called again? Oh, the benefactors of chaos.
We don't even know.
We don't even know. That's how metal we are. All hands on deck says YouTube can't handle the truth. I am Ryan Dawson.
They tricked you into saying it.
Des says the Sipho Dias character, his origins and story point confuses me more than algebra.
Look, man. His name is Sidious, and he paid for the clones, but he used the name Sipho Dyas. And then for some reason, Lucas was like, "No, they're really two characters. I'm holding the line on this one. Like
Yeah.
they're not. It's just because it's so ridiculous. He had to go. No, actually, it was another guy we never seen before. Like, no, Luke, no. It was just a. It's a goofy. It's so ah, damn it, you know. And now we have a
Yeah.
Sifo Dyas running around.
But
It is so confusing to me. You
but
know?
but in case I could help it, I could help at all. And some of it might not be canon now because it's not clear it's probably not canon now, but it's probably informing it. And that's that Sifo Dyas was this Jedi who was intellectually at the same tables as Qui-Gon and Count Dooku, and they would talk about politics and stuff. They would like hang out and basically play poker and talk about politics.
Dinner for
And
Force.
yeah, dinner for
Right?
Force. That's good. And basically he was like, it's coming, and they're like, oh, this guy, he's a little radical. And then he ends up learning what's going on, and then starts to not trust Dooku. And Qui-Gon goes out on the adventure and doesn't see him for a while, and takes matters into his own hands and writes a check that only the Republic can cash and not notice. And that's for the clones, and he was going to use it to save the clones when Darth Sidious took over officially. But Yoda sort of he busts a little too early. He shows up at Attack of the Clones with it to save his homies in
As
the
if
arena.
from nowhere.
Yeah. And he just shows up with them, and when in reality we needed those clones showing up on the day that Palpatine declared himself Emperor, which was Sifo Dyas's original plan. But Sidious caught on to Sifo Dyas's plan, and they had him murdered.
The missed opportunity for that shot in the attack. By the way, in Attack of the Clones, when the clones show up, that whole battle sequence is the part I like the most. But when they first show up, I'm like, okay, not one noise. Like the real, you know what I mean? They look, and they just look up, and it's like they were quiet the whole time.
You just like hear the fans.
So like to me, the missed shot would have been that the shadow of a Star Destroyer comes over you know what I mean? Engulfs them. And that's the first time you see that shadow, but it's there to save you, not, you know what I mean? Like that would have been the poetic rhythm, circular moment, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa, you got the rumble, and then they come flying, whoosh, you know, whoosh. And then
I will say the good thing about George Lucas not being as good at shots as he thinks he is at times is that it, like Rogue One, we got to get so many rad Star Destroyer shots and stuff like that. Like all the new filmmakers have stuff left that they get to do, which is the kind of the lucky part about the whole thing. And hey, Merry Christmas, Santa. As he says, Happy Bad Batch. Thank goodness it's Friday. So yeah,
pre-Pandy, man, Santa at TGIFs, right? Mm-hmm. Like we're all there, you know, having frosty mint juleps.
That's your TGIF. Mine is me and Santa, Urkel, Full House, Perfect Strangers. Yeah.
They're all too many cooks. I
love when the credits start coming up. Hey Zycam, do I want to be famous? Yes, make us famous. Do it, Zycam. He keeps saying he's going to do it for us, and he never does it. Do it, man. Yeah. Star Wars Santa says Captain Hauser equals Captain Ballast action figure. Santa, if you're still around by any chance, have they changed the name on anything that we've seen, or is it sticking? Mark Hamilton says Dale Santa Squad, and then he says, Jason, do you know? And then he continues on much about other animated shows in the works. Is the Bad Batch season 2 already in production, greenlit? So I had a conversation with a source who spoke about Bad Batch in a certain tense. I don't want to quote anything or say anything because I haven't asked them for permission, but I feel like this is fair game. And that's that it appeared that there was completely more than one season of the show. That this wasn't it, and there was reasons for that. And there's other reasons I can't talk about that make me firmly believe that without a doubt, season 2 of the Bad Batch is already being made.
It's called the Bad Second Batch.
Yeah, exactly. More have a Bad Batch in summer. Star Wars Santa says Bad Batch toys are super hot in the collector's market. Instantly sells out, and we're still waiting for Hasbro to give us the full set in vintage scale. Well, that's good. I'm always glad when the products are doing well, you know, because it means more shows that I watch. Mark Hamilton says Hasbro are amateurs at getting the vintage collection figures to market in a timely fashion. They need Lucasfilm to boot them up the ass and threaten to pull the license. Yeah, it's
Nothing's
sort of
getting to market in fashion right now, though, dude. You know what freight charges cost? So do you follow like tabletop gaming?
no.
So like tabletop gaming, pretty big on Kickstarter the past several years. I'm always up for like a cool original game to support, indie creators, and it's been decimated. Not in the ability to manufacture, but the shipping from all the shipping for the stuff gets done in China comes over here. The freight charges are so astronomical. You'd have to almost triple the price of an individual game now. And I just got to imagine that whatever experience you're getting now, every toy manufacturer. I mean, like even now, if you go to Big Bad Toy Store, you want to pre-order something, it's like September 2022.
You know, things like this were happening back in 2015. In 2015, they were having like problems with where they were making stuff in places to cut the cost, and then they couldn't get it shipped in time. There were like whole warehouses full of like figures that were just missing, and it's been a problem for actually like a decade now. With Hasbro. It's a Hasbro. Yeah, and maybe it's everybody. Maybe it's an everybody thing. And this is the only one I kind of like know about. But yeah. So point is that it with the pandemic, I'm sure it didn't get any better. So I still see your point totally. You know.
You know who doesn't have this problem? Funko. They just shove it. They got everything. Doesn't matter. Comes out. It's there. They got you.
Man. The Funko stuff. Geez, I don't know if you enjoy it, then by all means, but I pity Funko fans because they do not quit. They just keep making that shit. They do not slow down.
I used to clown my buddy who was way into it. I got a couple, right? I got a DuckTales one, but I'm not like, I don't got the wall. I'm not that dude, but he was that guy.
Yeah.
He kept them all in the box, like safe storage and shit. Like he's managed to resell those sealed ones for like triple the cost, if not sometimes 10 times the cost on a couple of them. So it's like, I'm like, I guess there's a market for it. I just like, what do you do with that wall of Funkos? I always find it funny when YouTubers have that wall of Funkos, and I'm like, is this an ad for fun? I don't know, man. Like they're not the same thing as like action figures to me. I don't know what I like Q-Figs. But Funkos are just weird.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm like, if anybody like my whole thing with that kind of stuff is if you're filling a hole by consuming something, even if it's Star Wars, not good. But it's like, but you don't want to levy that criticism against somebody who's like, no, actually I'm balanced. Everything is actually really good for me and I'm fine. And I just enjoy buying these things. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what it reminds me of?
I've seen both.
To bring up my age is when I was a kid, you ever have that friend who just had nothing but muscle men?
Yeah.
And they just had this giant canister of muscle men and they're all one color. You know what I mean? They don't
until they weren't. Then they made them multicolors and then they just went away.
Oh. I say until they put them up their nose. How did they get different? They made multicolor muscle men. And I was like, all right, muscle man. But if I wasn't my thing, but the local ice cream guy would show up, the ice cream man truck, and he'd have these little Japanese robot things that you could buy, and they were plastic, and you could like put them together and mix and match the arms and legs. And I was like, see, these are better. Mm-hmm. They were the same size, rubber, different limbs, but you could actually make your own. But my friends were like, Muscleman's the only way forward, dog. Like they were just like, you got your trash can and you put the Muscleman in it. And I'm like, all right, dude. They don't even fucking move. Like, but there's a lot of love for Muscleman, so
it's true. Yeah. It's like, if collecting makes you happy, then by all means. But it's still like one of those things where like I think it sucks when collecting becomes the happiest thing for you. Like that's where it starts like, ooh, you got to watch it. And that's where these companies, they not picking on one company at all, just Disney itself, that's when they become kind of predatory. You know what I mean? When
What about the collecting?
when they want to suck every dime out of you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's called Galaxy's Edge.
Oh
I
man.
mean, like,
That's
I get
true.
something has to pay for that, but like,
Yeah.
don't amortize the cost over 6 months. Do it over 6 years, dicks. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when that first opened up, my buddy went there, and he's a fairly wealthy dude. And he was like, I can't believe I just spent like $10,000. I was like, you did what? Like, I mean, my wedding wasn't 10 grand, bro. Like, I'm like, it wasn't even not like a 10% of that. Like, I'm like, what? You did what? He's like, yeah, well, I mean, it's Sabres and you stay at the place, and Lord knows what that galactic cruise ship's gonna cost people, you know?
Oh
I
no,
mean,
yeah, no, it's like I want to say from memory, it's about $3,000 a person or $2,500 a person or something like that. Yeah, that's where I don't know. That's where I start to kind of go like, I don't know how I feel about this, and it's like market dictates, and you're like, yeah,
I'm like, can we just
but
make a VR version so I can just go to the VR version?
well, it's where I feel weird about it too is that um we don't really know, like we don't really have a very standardized mythology necessarily. We are so into it, and it's like Star Wars is so tied into our mythology at this point in certain weird ways, even though we didn't know it's not real. But it's been completely commodified. It's really a weird, like it's a weird concept. And like I said, like I don't know how I feel about it. I'm completely mixed. There's like a part of me where I'm like, it's disgusting and it's meant to just separate people from their money. And then there's another part of me that's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. You have to be responsible. But then I know like some 18-year-old kid who just doesn't have the maturity yet to navigate that and understand it yet. And they get taken for several years until they hit that point. So yeah, it's weird, man. I just hope, I guess what I'm saying is everybody do what makes you happy, but question what you do. I've had to. Chandler says, Wrecker doesn't care about the mouse's rules. He opened up on cyclic with his blaster on those troopers. Yeah.
Wrecker's the brute, right?
Yeah. The big
I did like that saying. He's like, he's got a point. He's got a point. Yeah, no, he's got a point. Like that actually works. Like I imagine the voice though for me is what's his face from Seinfeld and Emperor's New Groove. Hey, he's got a point.
Oh, right.
She's definitely got a point. Yeah, she's got a point.
Yeah. No, it's that moment was, for as silly as it was well done. It had a little finesse, it had a little bit of finesse to it. It's like when they do those moments without the finesse, it's cringy, but that wasn't one of those times. Santa says, pretty sure more than 2 weeks have passed during the Bad Batch of season, more likely 2+ months. He says, here we started counting how many times Jason says doo-doo during the live stream. Am I saying doo-doo a lot?
It's my favorite.
Rob has to dress up like an Ewok. He's also the bass player.
Fun fact about that. My buddy, my Star Wars buddy, growing up,
my buddy,
like an Ewok. He looked like an Ewok. Like, no, he looked like an Ewok. Like he had this smaller, like everyone called him Ewok. I was like, poor guy. Like that's how we became friends. I was like, oh, because it wasn't like a well-liked thing. And then he would look at me and he would go, like, and he'd do the little tongue move, and I'm like, "You do look like an Ewok," So yeah. He's my buddy.
He sounds pretty badass for like just being like, "Okay, man, I look like an Ewok. I'm gonna lean into it because it's funny." I respect
my
that.
Star Wars friend.
I respect that. Yeah. Star Wars Anna says they're going to release the figure as Captain Hauser for Black Series, but the vintage series figure is going to still have Captain Ballast. So. Yeah, might want to get that first version, or might want to get both because one of them will end up being rare once they change it, if they do. So Chandler says, does anyone else think Rob has bee stung lips?
It's that story I told.
No, it's not a story. It's our new myth. It's our new mythology. It's those bee stung lips of
Jar Jar definitely has bee stung
lips. Yeah, he does. Beautiful man. He's a beautiful man.
He's a pouty.
Yeah. So far though, I don't really go see, I don't let my kids go in stores right now. So we don't hit like toy aisles at all. And then I pretty much just go to the grocery store. I'm not risking it, and I'm trying to be responsible in this whole pandemic stuff. And so I don't really like go to the store. So I haven't even seen Bad Batch things anywhere. And if they were there, I wouldn't know.
Same.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I
Same.
really wouldn't. And but you know, it's kind of strange because like when you're indoctrinated into like these toys as a child, like we were, and then they come back and they were gone for so long and they were worth so much money, and there's like all this stuff behind it that makes
Powers of the Force.
Power of the Force like attractive. I mean, we wasted money on a crap toy line at that point. When you in the big picture, it was mostly
I almost got
crap.
arrested.
Yeah,
Like, that's no joke. So when we went to Walmart, was it 95 or 94 they came out? 95-ish.
it was 95, I think.
So
yeah,
we went to the Walmart. I knew they were coming out because Star Wars Insider or something. And so we go down there, and I was like, I had a couple friends with me because they were like, you can only buy one at a time. So it was like a little kid on a mission, right? Like a little kid, 15, 16 on a mission. So I walk into the store, and I'm like, all right, so you, this one, me, this one, this one. They're all for me, just because I wanted them. I wasn't reselling them. And then we're walking back, and then as we go to the aisle to go pay, this store Walmart security goes, "Hey, did you forget to pay for something?" I'm like, "No, I'm literally walking up to the cash register I got my money in my hand. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, we think you're still." And my dad had his own private security. He was one of those guys who was like, no law enforcement guy tells my son what to, because he knew me. It's the idea of stealing is like, like, honestly, bro, I'd burn the place down before I ever stole anything. Like, I'm like, I could see burning down Walmart, but I'm not stealing stuff. You know, like, this is ridiculous.
yeah.
So, but yeah, they didn't believe that I was taking the toys to pay for them, because we were just on this mission to get to there and to get there and get out. You know, like, but their view, we got some guys are eyeing the thing, and they're making plans, like as if that's how people steal things. Like,
Yeah,
like
no,
we were in the working it out in the aisle.
Yeah, me and my best friend, we were 15 when the toys came out, and we couldn't have a job, and so we were beholden to parents' luck, money from somewhere, and they came out when that second wave came out with Yoda and Lando and Boba Fett.
Yeah,
We're just there, where they could look at each other. We
dot in his hand or not dot on his hand.
Yeah, exactly. And right. We understood. We were very good at he and I have we can silently communicate, which is really funny when we are that good at communicating where we don't really even need to say anything. We know
that's how me and my
thinking.
Star Wars friend we're like,
and then but then it's funny when we get into misunderstandings, because then it's just a clusterfuck. When that breaks down, then it's like, what?
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Murder them all.
But we just started grabbing them by the bubble in the cards, squeezing it, because the bubbles, the cards had the little strip so they could tell if it was being stolen.
Oh yeah.
And we just grabbed it, and we're wearing our 1994 style cardigan sweaters, and we just shoved them into the you don't hear any of this, lady. We were just shoving them into our sleeves, put our hands on our backpacks like this, walked right out, got the whole collection loose, one go. But that is insane. Where was my brain? Why was my brain?
You were the bad friend. You were the bad batch. You were the friend that should not have had, right?
No, I was a little punker, and meant it, and also did not mind stealing from a corporation, and I
feared jail, Jason.
Maybe
you gotta understand that.
Yeah, well, no, that was my thing. It was we're only 15. They can't do shit to us. Like, we were, you know what I mean? It was like, what's gonna happen? Eventually we did get caught, but it was even lamer. We were bored one day, and we wanted to play the Star Wars customizable card game, and we went down
the one that made no sense.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't like it even, which makes this all even dumber. But we opened it up and then took it. But I was the one who they caught, and I actually got a vandalism charge. Not like on my record, but I think they sued me for $200. Like Target, they just sent me this thing going, give us $200 or we're going to sue you for more. So I was like, here's $200, Target. My parents
Yeah, when
were
that
like,
came out, I was working at Playco that
Mhm.
Christmas, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Look, I've ignored Magic since day one. Not my thing. It was my girlfriend's thing, but this will be the card game I learn because it's Star Wars." So
yeah.
I'm like, I got there. I got a little bit of the at cost discount, and it cost me like $30 instead of $60 or something.
Mhm.
I went down to this. There's this cafe. It's in Linda Vista. Um, in Linda Vista, there's this bus stop in front of a Old Spice Cafe, is what it was called. And
Okay.
so I would go in the Old Spice Cafe, order an onion ring and a Coke, and sit at this table because they wouldn't bother you. And I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna figure out this game, and I'm working at it. And after like 2 hours in this cafe, I'm like, this fucking thing don't make sense. Like, I'm like, what are these icons? Like, and there's all this stuff, and I'm like, this was just the biggest waste of money ever. You know,
Yeah.
I just could not. And I met up with my Star Wars friend. We did it, and he was like, no, it makes sense. I'm like, it does not make sense. You just want it to make sense. And
Yeah.
so,
We played it once or twice, and yeah, I just couldn't like really get into it like I wanted to. But that's what I look back on about like that stuff where like I really felt a need, like I had to have it, and I didn't have to have it. And as a teenager stole something for it. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you thinking? You know? But
right.
that whole, yeah. And where does that obsession and that pull come from? You know what I mean? It's so weird, but
The
it's
reptilian mind.
yeah, no, it's definitely something that, like, obviously I was an extreme case of it. And I was also mad because I couldn't have a job. Like I felt like I'm like man sized. I'm treated like a man. I'm beat up by football players that are men from the local college. You know what I mean? And it's like, well,
Well,
I can have a fucking job. Fuck
that
everything.
15 thing is funny. So that happened to me. So at that point, I had a job at Pizza
Yeah.
Hut.
Mm.
But 1 year earlier, sorry, I was 15. And so I walked up to this Pizza Hut. I always wanted to work at the Pizza Hut.
You're all
We
making it
moved to
great.
Lakeside because my mom was manager at the Pizza Hut, and then
Mhm.
eventually the restaurant part became not an important thing, and they had the
Yeah.
delivery side. And I wanted to work at the delivery side because I just wanted to work with pizza. Right?
You're all,
I get free pizza.
I saw these videos on the internet, and I know that things that I want to do happen.
I
with
know
the
it's
Pizza
horrible.
Boys.
I love the
Yeah.
smell of it. Never get old. Just wanted to work around pizza. I just wanted pizza all the time, bro. That's all I want. I would be if I could. Right. So.
Mhm.
I go into the Pizza Hut and I'm like, I want to apply for a job. I looked 18, 19. When I was a kid, I was the one who go to Knott's Berry Farm and they'd have that thing, guess your age, within
Mhm.
they go within 4 years. I'm like, perfect. And they would never guess my age. I won every time. I'd bring my ID and they go, you're like 17. And I'm like, I'm 12. I'm like 10 or 11. Like, it was funny.
Yeah.
But I go to this Pizza Hut and they're like, sorry, you're 15, you can't work here until you're like 16 or something. I was 14 or whatever it was a year of, I'm like, okay. Because it was my birthday. It was October 10th, 1994. So I'll be back. So I go back literally then on my next birthday. Now can I work here? And they're like, yes, you can. I'm like,
Happy
I can
birthday.
start today. Yeah.
How,
That was
how
when
long,
the
how long did you work at the pizza place?
less than a year.
Yeah.
You know what happened, man? I liked working there, but my father had a little Cinderella in me. So
Mhm.
like he had me doing everything. I had to work for him, do everything around the house, take care of my brothers, get straight A's, and he would use like going to work as like, you can't go to work now, you got to do chores. And I'm like, and I couldn't, and you had people like who were depending on you. And by the way, some of these people are depending on you, I'm going to school with. So now they're mad at me at school because I wasn't there for them on a Tuesday night because my father decided to hold work over my head like it was going to a
Yeah.
party.
Mm.
So I was like, one of these things got to go, man. So I have to get out, the pizza game. So
My first gig that I just used to buy Star Wars stuff was at a mobile gas station, and that
Circle K.
I was at a mobile gas station, and it was like I started with two other guys my age at the same time, and for some reason these suckers had it in their mind that working at the register was some kind of like promotion. And it was the best thing ever, man. I had like, because I had like an acoustic guitar. I hid behind the car wash, and
Clerks.
I would just go and I was just like, I'm sweeping, and then sweeping. I would talk to friends and meet people, get dates, go around the side of the car wash. Had some ideas for some songs. Had my little tape recorder, take it out, come up, write my ideas down, play it real quick. Be like, yeah, this is great. It was the best time ever. But I have this recurring nightmare, and it's that I wake up and I am there and I'm working there, but I don't really know anybody there. I don't know if my boss remembers me, but I'm like, I gotta do this. Like, this is my job. And then here's where it gets weird and it's scary as hell is I'll go into the back, like where like all the stock stuff was. And, when I go back there, I go to the very back, there's this like panel. And I remember sometimes I'd have to like turn on the sprinklers or something from there. And I go there, look at
Right.
the panel, then a battle droid is in there, but it's like a battle droid. Yeah, seeing a battle droid in a very realistic fashion, walking around like a moving skeleton, is frightening as hell. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't know why it is so
Missed
scary.
opportunity for the sequel trilogy for them to actually find battle droids and use them to fight off the First Order, you know? Like,
right? No,
recommission them and stuff.
and I've had the dream like 4 times throughout the years,
and they all have red arms.
So they could, yeah. And one time though, I tried to rip the battle droid's head off. My plan was to grab its head, rip it off, and then run. And when I tried it, it wouldn't come off. It couldn't rip off. And I was like, those cartoons are so fake.
Not for nothing, man. I shit you not. Yesterday, I had a dream that we were doing the podcast and you dropped out, and I just couldn't bring up a reference story. Like, couldn't get. I could. My dreams these days, ever since the army, are just slightly different modern realities in which I just have normal problems I can't solve. Like,
really,
like I'm on the podcast and I'm trying to bring up the Pure F and it's not working, and I'm just like stumped. I'm like, hey guys, just give me Jason will be back, and you go on and you drop off. I guess he's not coming back on, and then I wake up and go, great, there's my day. You know, I don't get to have the fight. The last great dream I ever had was literally right after the Phantom Menace. It was my friend and I were fighting Darth Maul. Like, that was it. After that, all normal. Like, I just go to a slightly variant universe in my dreams and have shitty fucking days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what's weird about me is like I don't have dreams like late or early in the night anymore. I just will sleep poorly and almost like lucidly be thinking. Like, that's kind of where it falls. But it's when I have to get up, like for instance, there's like a street sweeping day, and like let's just say I forgot to put my car in the right place. So I go run and I move my car. I hear it coming. I wake up, move the car, go back to bed. That's when I have the fucked up dream, is when I go back to sleep every time. Like, it sucks because then I get like that dream hangover and everything. But yeah, but anyways, before I forget, our buddy Ben, who should have been here today, but I am dumb. I'll blame myself. So we are all assuming Lama Su was toast once that door shut. Yeah. And if you ask me, my opinion was the sound effect was there. And at some point when the idea came to make everything a stun blast, that sound was also removed. Because it's like they implied it but didn't show it, but I also don't think Lama Su is so fucking rad that's like, nope, just kidding.
Meanwhile, Captain America pulls out literal guns and shoots people in the Marvel films. I just don't understand. I'm of the 90s mind with censorship. Like, once you do one thing, it goes across the whole board. It's like Star Wars is already defined. Define it by, within obvious 70s rules. Like, don't just have the only black guy be a bad dude. Like, that's not a good move.
Right.
But like the gun thing is just ridiculous, dude. Like, it's just so stupid.
Yeah, yeah, it like I just not to get back into the whole thing too much, but it's like doesn't like the problem feel like it's based in fragility and believing that you are the main character in this narrative and it's not shared. So when it breaks down, you have to go out shooting. Like isn't that kind of like I don't know if that's but it's like that's like more of the problem with these I think with these people that do this stuff. It's like it's a tantrum and it's an attention fit. It's nobody recognizes my pain and and so I'm going to do this and everybody's going to feel it
It's
and they're
very
going to
Columbine though in that take. It could be a lot of different things, but I
yeah.
definitely for those guys it came across that way, right? Or they were just
Yeah.
hopped up on meds, or their parents
Yeah,
were psycho
yeah.
and they made them psycho. I don't know, like
Yeah, but I mean it wasn't a thing and now it is.
yeah.
And
Star
it's
Wars
like
is literally its own thing, and it has its own rules. So play fair, but like for Imperial Stormtrooper just to be the ring looks dumb. Like it just
Yeah.
looks dumb. Like it's like it reminds me of when Gandalf was blowing those little rings of smoke, of puff of. It's all I
Yeah.
see, man. And I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy, a Lotor, whatever they call it. Like
Yeah, no, I mean it was literally a way of letting them shoot pretty little Carrie Fisher and it us not think she's dead.
and not her hair
And
goes.
yeah, and for her not to get damaged and now it's
My
like
hair! You shot my hair!
yeah, Spaceball. Mark Hamilton says, "Yep, llama sautéed." Agreed. I wonder if it tastes like calamari. I bet it does. Josh Stickles says it was funny after the Bad Batch used all stun blast. Then Wrecker shows up and just goes wild blasting with non-stun blast, and then the ship shows up. Yeah, it was like was that like a trade-off? Is there some kind of like secret standards? Like you could only do this many of this? Like, well, we
I
need that
think
moment.
you had made the point where you're like, do they just not want to shoot clones? Like, or you were like, do they only shoot clones? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, maybe they don't want to hurt their own kind, but the minute they find out these dudes are dudes and not clones, set this stuff to kill.
Yeah.
Like we ain't killing us, now we're killing them kind of thing. Because like, but there just needs to be some dialogue about that, because it is weird where you're like, oh,
Well,
so he's cool with it, but
I sensed it in the minecart episode too. I was like, why aren't they shooting right now? Why is nobody shooting like in that moment? It felt like it was maybe they had their hands tied. Maybe it's not their fault. Maybe they are being forced into this creative pigeonhole or whatever you want to call it by something else. Mark Hamilton says Wrecker used kill shots against the stormtroopers. I think they're deliberately using stuns against clones who are their brothers that the chips are controlling. No, because they were wasn't he did it and then he pulls off the helmet and goes like this one's oh maybe he thought he was a clone at that point and
but
stunned them.
after it, they're still doing it.
Yeah, they didn't change. Yeah, I mean we'll have to see. It's really not a big deal in this one episode. It is a big deal if every time I watch a Star Wars story that's animated from now on, nobody gets shot with laser guns.
I'm not raging against the internet over this. This isn't the hill I want to die on. It's just
Yeah.
that working in licensing, guys, I used to get this note from Walmart, not Lucasfilm, from Walmart specifically. And I used to, and they'd go, Rob, don't pick a fight with Walmart. And I'm like, I just don't know what. I like consistency, Jason. Even if you're psychotic, just be a consistent psychotic, okay?
Yeah,
if you're
I
gonna
try.
say no guns, no blasters, right? That's what I used to. Can I do a no blaster shirt? Like, believe they were like, don't piss them off, Rob. I'm like, I actually, side note, and you're gonna like this. Here, I once in 2007 we got the Xbox 360 license. I was at the t-shirt company called Logotel,
Right.
and I was trying to do Leet Speak on shirts when that was new. Okay. And Microsoft is, we don't know what this means and we don't know where it's from. We only want you to use pre-approved verbiage in the style guide. And they had all these corporate slogans. I'm like, no one wants to wear this. And one of their corporate slogans says only on Xbox 360. That was their thing. So I'm like, only this? We can only use this stuff? Yeah, okay. So I put the red ring of death. I just put their logo with the red ring and I put only on Xbox 360. Bro, when I came into work next day, like it was like conference call with 2 different states. You know what I mean? The CEO was on board. Microsoft, this is not funny. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, just make some money back. I mean, you're spending like $300 million. You can make and sell a few shirts. Like,
Yeah.
So when I hear that, I'm like, so we can't put blasters. I was like, can I put no blasters on a shirt?
Yeah.
If I put the word blasters and the kid can wear no blasters, that makes sense. Don't, you're going to anger him, man. You're going to anger him. I'm like, see, there's no consistency, Jason.
Yeah. But that's what's confusing me is that Disney's within its own ecosystem or ecosystem. Right. Sorry, stupid.
Is it eco base or echo base?
Echo the dolphin. No, it's Echo. It's Echo.
Echo the dolphin. LSD.
Yeah. No, but it's like like you mentioned, like they're not. It's not on TV. Everything is like it's like kind of like they could almost, you think, do what they want. So
if you can have the live action films in the same right next to Bad Batch, you click it. There's the live action movie.
Yeah,
it's not like it's under the kids section in a separate thing, and they don't have the live actions with the kid. When you go to the Star Wars section on Disney Plus, it's right next to the thing where they're murdering all sorts of people.
Yeah,
Obi-Wan's cutting off people's arms and stuff. Like literally. So it's like, I don't understand.
So Chad says maybe it is dramatic or creative purpose and has little to do with PC or cancel culture. Maybe killing behind doors was a creative choice. Oh, so that right there, the killing of like Lama Su, I believe I believe that door would have closed. I do think we would have heard the blast though.
Yeah, we would have heard the blast. It was almost a little bit of the Godfather shot, when he closes the door, it's like a reverse version of that. I think we should have heard it choo choo choo. Like, yeah.
But when they're shooting random stormtroopers with stun guns, that's where it's just weird. That's where it's like, and to an extent, like in certain ways, like, yeah, if you don't have to kill, maybe you don't, and that's nice. But these guys aren't those guys. These aren't the guys that are like
has a skull tattooed on his face.
Yeah, these are our guys born
Poof,
to
confetti. Poof, confetti.
Yeah, born to kill. I mean, it's like, it's like you took Rambo, and Rambo doesn't kill like people. What?
There's a skull on his face.
What?
Dios las muertos party. Poof, poof, confetti. I don't know, man. Like, it's an odd. I'm not a dude who goes, oh, my stormtrooper is the one to kill. No, if the battle droids can shoot people, I don't fully understand. They're commandos. They're going in to get a guy. And especially when they're fighting for their lives to get on that ship, like they're trying to blow up the ship and kill everyone on board. That's going to prevent them from escaping. Like, and how long are people stunned for? Do they get stunned for 5 minutes, 10 hours? Like,
whatever's convenient.
Right. We've never learned the rules of like that. That would be that little like Robert Downey Jr. / Favreau like rambling moment in a movie where they're like, when this would actually stun. You want to stun for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, actually. One of those little tinkerer moments.
We'll probably learn through some book that stun 10%, it's just a temporary stun. Stun 100%, put you out for 3-4 hours, bro. You'll be down.
If you get a stun venti, you're out for 4 days. But
right.
You get a stun tall, it's like 10 minutes.
And then we should start the fake rumor that kids are buying stun guns and they're getting high off of stunning each other and the endorphin rush from it. Thanks to Bad Batch.
YouTube will say that you're giving that advice out for kids. You gotta be very careful. Because asshole parents don't know how to behave properly on the internet.
Fuck them.
Guess it's audio only from now on.
Here we go. Back to straight up podcasting.
Yeah.
Josh says early Rebels episodes never killed anyone at all, but it got better as the show went on. So hopefully the same thing happens with Bad Batch. So, yeah.
It just weird. Reeks of LA storytelling to me. Like,
I don't want to go down the gun rabbit hole. We're almost done too, but really quickly, just gonna throw out there, what if people not dying around being shot constantly is actually worse for our culture? What if it disrespects the true power of guns in your hand and actually gives the wrong message about them?
Remember the movie Starman?
Yeah, with Karen Allen.
Yeah,
Right?
with the deer, like
Mm-hmm.
how like important a lesson that was.
Yeah.
Like when and then also when Spielberg removed the shotguns from E.T., that wasn't the right move to make, buddy. And he
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, what was I doing?"
Yeah.
Listen to
But
George.
I do respect, like, in that instance, and the Greedo one, like, I don't want to give the wrong message to kids. I don't want my kid thinking it's okay to murder somebody. I don't, I can respect that. At the same time, it's like, yeah, the people that will take ET from you are horrible people. They do exist, and they should be treated as the fearful thing that they are.
Except Han did that before. Look, the problem with that move is Han does that when he's still in it for himself, when he's
Oh,
still
sure.
a rogue
No.
guy. And the Han is that the Han later, that same Han is the one who leaves his friend and takes the money.
Mhm.
So you know what I mean? Like, it's after Han saves his friend and comes back, then he can't do that.
Right. No, and
You know?
I understand that in terms of like storytelling and for like what it is, and in the scope of his arc. But in real life, George Lucas didn't like showing that to his son,
I
and
get you, but that
and
is
then
then make his own personal edit because the
yeah,
execution of it's so bad. Like, let's
yeah,
just forget about the idea of it. I don't want to get into the morality. Like, it
yeah,
just looks stupid. Like, like
yeah.
it literally,
No.
like it's like, you know. I mean, could you imagine the Matrix if there were just like 3 frames moving like this? Like, you'd be like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like, it just looks bad.
Yeah,
So,
I'm to the point now about it, like where I like simply, if they put it back to the original way, or I just don't even care. Like, it just
yeah,
like
I
it
don't
just
care anymore.
doesn't
Like,
even
it's
matter. It's
20
like,
years is too much. Like, I don't.
yeah,
Like, who cares?
yeah. It is the one thing that he should. I mean, he's laughing about it now, but he should just put it back.
Yeah.
Chad says Omega seems like a bit of a non-character to me so far. Maybe that is the angle there. She is softening those hard soldiers up a bit. I like the show so far, but Omega's relevance though. So yeah, I think that there's like 2 things. Is that I think that the function is that she helps them understand that if they're people, because they were just kind of grown in test tubes and have been at war and trained for war their whole lives, but they do have a moral compass thanks to the Jedi exposure. And then so her thing is, and she's a bit of a naive child who is able to show them that. On the flip side, they are going to show her that the world is bad right now. It's not safe. You have to get tough, and here's how you become a warrior. And that's essentially what like the generally like the monomyth is classically how to become a man, or in this instance a warrior. And that's what Han Solo and Obi-Wan do. They teach Luke Skywalker how to be an adult who fights on his own and can hold his own. And so I think that's what's going to happen, or what's supposed to be happening. If it's happening efficiently or effectively depends on the scope of the show. If the show is 1 season, not enough. If the show is 2 seasons, which I believe it is, then they are kind of going slow, but maybe it's going to really get rollicking. Because usually too, I feel like there's usually the rubber banding backstory is once the character gets too much power and has too much potential, they kind of have to learn what the boundaries of that are. And they, not to say they go evil, but they go down a misuse where they start to see what the boundaries of using that are. And then they pull back.
They steal a card game. And
they steal a card game. They learn.
They go too far. They learn
Yeah.
their lesson. Yeah.
And then they just move into stealing corporate secrets. No.
One other thing. You're not stealing. People are handing those to you.
That's true. They are gifts.
A thing I do want to say about the episode before we go that I thought was pretty good, it hasn't been brought up so far, is when those little clone kids are being handed off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It felt very like when you send Auschwitz-y a little bit, you know what I mean? Like you're sending some kids off to die, like yeah, just go with them. I'll be with you soon. Oh no, like what was that Jerry Lewis movie they got put in the can where he was a clown?
The clown, yeah.
It felt like that to me. Like, oh, are we really doing this? Like holy shit.
Yeah,
that was a little dark.
I imagined those kids going into that mine from Temple of Doom, or the mine in the last episode.
Yeah.
That's where I think they're going. I think they're like they're not going to pay to finish their education. And they're, and they're going to age fast. So what are they going to do with them? Like,
yeah, I genuinely was like, this is dark. This is like,
yeah,
this is pretty,
it's true.
Yeah.
But Well, we've hit our 2-hour mark. Chad agrees with us, so we reached atonement with one of our watchers today, which is good. And I want to thank everybody for showing up and hanging out with us in the chat and correcting us when we're wrong and sharing your thoughts. And hopefully, it's a fun news week next week. I think it's going to be, but you never know. But
Well, I'm gonna get to making up stories, so
all right,
I'm busy.
Yeah.
Trolls craft.
Here we go. Yeah, but you can, if you want to support the channel so we can keep doing this show, by all means become a channel member on YouTube or on Patreon. And on Patreon, it's kind of a little bit better, I think, because you get the show as an audio file in your podcatcher if you should want that. So that's cool. And but if you can't, no worries. The show's free, and I'm just glad to hang out with all the Star Wars buds, talk about Star Wars, and share our thoughts. Probably get in trouble, get canceled again. Who knows? Who cares? You know, once you've already done it once, who cares? And then yeah. But if you have any questions or anything that you want to hear on the show or to hear us discuss, but you can't come to the live show because you can't be here at this time or whatever, just send me an email or a DM or a tweet and to Making Star Wars on every platform, and I will make sure I eventually get to it that week. So yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks Rob, appreciate it, man. Always good hanging out with you. And you know what, it's about spaceships.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.